Hi, Flosstube. Pam, stitching between the lines. Monday, February 24th, 2020. 2020. It's been a while. Not a long while. I just feel like I kept thinking I need to make a video. I'm late on a video. Well, not that I hold to any kind of schedule, so I'm not saying that, but I made lists. I don't know where the list is. I'd have some things gathered somewhere, and I think I'll do it later because there's other things somewhere else. So I did my best to bring them all together. Also, I was waiting for something that still hasn't arrived, so I'm going to hold off on talking about that until it arrives, and then I'll probably make a short little video when that happens, because I have to give that particular item its due when it comes. So anyway, we are in the midst of a move. I'm sitting in our dining room, what's left of our dining room, and I feel very echoey. All our china cabinets are gone, and we're down to just the table and chairs and a few pictures on the wall. And this morning, we've been moving ourselves, and which means a couple times a week, I take a carload of things over, things I've packed, things out of my sewing room, things I just picked up and put in my car, not even packed. So I've been doing that, and then on the weekends is the big push. On the weekends, my husband gets the trailer out and the truck, and we load that. We've had various kids home helping do that, so that's a lot of the furniture has gotten moved. The living room is empty. So that house is filling up. Spend a certain amount of time over there messing around, organizing, especially my sewing space. But every time I kind of start, I think, I need those shelves that are still here with stuff on them. So it's happening. It's coming together. We plan to be finally finished, roughly. Fully moved, meaning we've taken the cats, we've taken our bed, we're sleeping there the last weekend in March. So we have some time. It gives us another week or 10 days to make sure things are clean here. We don't need to make a trip back to pick up odds and ends that were forgotten or didn't fit in the last load that went. So we're dragging it out a long time. I think what's going to sort of feel nice is that when we do start staying there, that the house will feel like put together. I don't know if it's more work taking apart this house for such a long stretch of time and putting together that one at the same time, so that when I'm there, I'm not just surrounded by a wall of boxes that not even knowing where to start. So it's getting there. This house is a 5-bedroom house, 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. And our little seasonal cottage is 3 bedrooms. And that we'll be selling that too, because obviously we only need so many houses on a lake. It's a lot of condensing a lot of things into a 3-bedroom house. It's a nice house. There's no doubt about it. There's a really large den that will be in my sewing room, plus where we watch TV and stuff in the evening. Not really a family room. It's really not meant to be like a room that the public would come, like we're open for the public, where people, if we had visitors, we wouldn't hang out in that room. That's mostly just our evening room and my sewing room. And then there's also a family room and a living room. So there's lots of that kind of space. There's just not a lot of bedrooms. I'd like another bedroom, but whatever. We'll see. Time goes by. We'll see. So it's coming. I still haven't barely put a single dish in the kitchen cupboards because I kind of can't figure that out. I don't know. It's a timber frame home. If you're familiar with that, it's a lot of high ceilings and open space. So the kitchen, the dishwasher is as far from any cupboard as possible. So I kind of haven't figured out where would you want your dishes. So it'll come. It'll happen. There's more space in that kitchen than in my current kitchen. So things will fit. So anyway, that's what we're doing most of the time. every every day I pack some things and make sure there's enough things for a carload of things the next time I go, which amounts to about twice a week plus on the weekend. So I last night I'm in bed and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I guess, but then I feel like overwhelmed when I think about there's areas we haven't even packed a single thing, like the kitchen. Um, and this morning, my watch, I haven't, we've talked about my watch before. My Apple Watch tells me every day, your activity level and whatever, and sets goals and whatnot. So on Monday morning, it tells you your whole total for the week, last week, from, I would guess, last Monday morning till this Monday morning. I don't know. It said, and I believe it, that I climbed 116 flights of stairs, which I would believe, because most of my sewing room, our family room is in the basement here, and in the new house there's actually 2 flights of stairs. There's a family room and bedrooms in the downstairs level, and there's a loft. So a lot of stair climbing makes for a tired me. So anyway, there's that. So my husband and I went away the first week of February, so there wasn't a lot of stitching. But when I got home, I'm supposed to be packing my house, right? I still am managing to find lots of stitching time. I'm not usually here in February, so I'm not really sure what usually I do in February. It's kind of like, well, Christmas is over and Christmas is all packed up and put away, and I don't know. I think when I'm in Florida, I get a lot of stitching time, so maybe I would if I was here. I don't know. Anyway, that's my world. So this morning was feeling really lazy and not enough sleep and all the things, and I thought, you have to do something. I'm not going to make a trip down to the new house until Wednesday, so I have a few days of accumulating a carload. I thought, just bubble wrap 10 pictures. Just do 10. Sometimes when you get started, I did more than 10, maybe 30. I didn't really count, but I started setting aside some so we could have a little trip down memory lane before we get into what I did manage to work on in the last several weeks since we spoke. So I'm pulling things off the wall and I'm kind of setting them around. So it's a little bit of a mess here on my dining room table, but we're just going to do it. We're going to do it. I feel like the light is shifting and I keep wanting to look over out the window to see what's going on. It was sunny today, but rain is coming, and then cold and snow and stuff. It's still February. I did this. Let me look at the year. 2007. It is, I'm sure you'll recognize a shepherd's bush. I don't know what it's called. It might be called Softly Spring. And back at that time, I won a gift certificate from Down Sunshine Lane. And it was just, I think maybe a $50 gift certificate. And it was, if you placed an order over the course of the next few days or something, she drew some people to win, and I won. And so I chose this pattern. I'm gonna get this wrong. This has been a few years, so I think I'm granted permission to have forgotten some of the exacts of it. I may have already purchased this, but on her website she had the Jill Rensler mats, so that's what I bought with my gift certificate. And then I took it to be framed at my framer. I know everything's a little bit dusty, even when I dust it and to bring it in here, it just picks up dust because there's a lot of moving pieces and parts in my house. So that's one. Oh, I'm looking at the sign on the back. This was my framer before my current framer. I don't even know which side to start setting them down on because there's stuff on each, leaning up against each leg of the table. Let's look at this one. Oh, a lot of these I don't think I've ever shown you. January from Waxing Moon. Love that. This is right in keeping with a prairie schooler. This just makes me think of a prairie schooler. I stitched this in 2014, so it's not even that old. I'm sure these are still available. This is absolutely one of the best ever pictures, and who can not love a little sled riding boy? So that was one of the, somewhere I have I have my Prairie Schooler January as well. So let's look at that one. More love. I just love the kids on the sleds. We rode, my kids, I couldn't really I couldn't really get them into sled riding, but that was an activity. That was a regular activity. Is you dragged your sled down to the neighbors that had a big hill in the backyard, or one place where we lived, the country club had the golf course. I don't think we were supposed to be there. I don't really remember, but it was a really nice big hill. And we lived in a town that was at the foot of a big hill. And people would, even my family, my parents, we'd drive up there and sled ride, and there'd always be people there doing it. We had a toboggan. I mean, it was a regular activity, was going sled riding. In one town we lived in, my best friend lived on a farm, and out back of her farm was a big hill, and every kid that could walk would walk over to their house and sled ride. It's just what you did. So anyway. Lots of memories. I got a sled for Christmas when I think I was 6. So a flexible flyer. Stitched this in 2013. Don't ask me fabrics. That's not even something I'm going to know. This was Little House, I think. Country Cottage, Little House. Probably Little House. 2007. It's time for all these things to come down anyway. Now they're just going to get wrapped and moved. This one sits on some shelves in my living room. Another Little House, right? The one about the library books. An open book is a window into the world. That was really fast stitch. That was a funny, surprising thing. I remember thinking the bricks would take forever, but they really didn't. 2010. Oh, there's more. There's a lot more. This was interesting. I'm trying to remember where we lived when I did this. Well, I guess the year would be a dead giveaway. At 2003. I ordered this from the Stitchery catalog. Does everybody remember that? I really still love a picture that depicts the 4 seasons, whether it's 4 different pictures or whatever. And I saw this not long ago on Stash Unload, and I forgot to write down the name of it. Seasonal chairs, maybe? I don't know. Again, it was quick. To me, relatively quick. And fun. It was a fun one. It's done on a piece of even weave, not Ada. I'm guessing that's what came in the kit, because I'm not really prone to changing things. Certainly in 2003. It was a long time ago. 2003. My youngest was in 1st grade, maybe. This is a Bent Creek, right? And I don't know, a seasonal row, maybe? It's because there's winter and spring and summer and fall. Let's check the year on that. 2009. Those are fun. They don't take long. What is this one called? Lizzie Kate's 5 or 6 Fat Men, something like that. And the patterns are all individual patterns, and then you could get I don't want to call it a border, but the instructions as to how to stitch them all on one piece of fabric. And like this was an added feature, and this was added. So that one appears to be on a piece of opalescent, done in 2012. He's cute. This is the oldest piece, I think. Certainly in this grouping, it is not the oldest piece I have, but it's certainly from my younger days of stitching. We maybe showed this once. I may have. I stitched this for Christmas for my husband in 1987. We weren't married yet. It was the first Christmas that we would have been dating, and this was his Hobie cat, and I had a pattern. The more common sail that you see on a Hobie cat is the rainbow stripes. So I had a photo of his boat, and I had the pattern, and I changed it to match the colors and put his sail number on. We had that boat. My husband, always big into boats. Here we are, moving to the side of a lake. He bought, when he graduated college, he didn't buy a new car like most of us new college graduates did. He bought a boat, this one. And we had that boat for a good number of years, I'd say a number of years. We sold it the summer I was pregnant for our second child, and we sold it because our house needed a new furnace. And we never went on it because we had babies. This one wasn't even all that long ago that I did this one. 2000, something in the teens. I do not right off the bat see the date. Wonder what that's all about. It's a dimensions. It might be no, it's not Mary Everything. I don't remember. It's a Debbie Mum pattern though. Well, Debbie Mum did I don't know. I don't have it. I don't know how that works. Debbie Mum was the artist. I don't know. But I love how it turned out. This is one that went into timeout. I bought it, I think, the very first time I ever went to the Silver Needle. Always been a fan of snowmen, but I now know I hate to stitch them. And I liked Debbie Mum's style. And I stitched over here like this kind of part of it. And then it got put away for several years, and I decided I was not going to have patterns that I just ignored. I didn't buy them and spend money on them and start them and spend all that time to just leave them somewhere neglected forever. So I took this to Florida with me, maybe the first year I ever went for an extended time, which was 2015. That's what I believe. And I worked my way, worked on getting this stitched. And once the white is done and the outlining, holy cow, the outlining. I really made some progress, and then I got it framed. So 2015 seems more recent, but I can remember working on it in Florida. Anyway, this one is another dimensions, I believe. It has been 2006. It has been up over the cupboards in my back hall where there's a long stretch of cupboards and counter, and it leads down to the laundry room, and I have a lot of bird houses and things like that up there. And I did this one, which I love because I like birds and things, but it was fussy. It had some fancy stitches and some outlining. I remember having to like really plow through it. I love the way they use like the half stitch and maybe only one thread to get the dimension of a farm off in the distance. So. Also in that same area, up over the cupboards, was this la-di-da, zippity-doo-dah. I love this. The minute I saw it, I loved it. And there was a blogger, that was back in the blogging days, who wrote let me see when I did it, 2000 I cannot see that, 2007? 2010, I think, sorry about that. She wrote a big long thing about how this isn't the word, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-a. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't retain the information because when I was 7 years old, I had never been to the movie theater, but that wasn't uncommon. It might have been the year 19, I was 7 in 1970. So um, my mother said she wanted to take my sister and I to the movies. That Song of the South was playing, and we didn't know what it was like to go to a movie theater or anything. So we were like apprehensive and didn't want to go, and we're just unsure. And she said she really thought we should go because it was a Disney movie, and Disney movies only came to the theater every, I don't know, 7-10 years, something like that. So we went, and what we saw was Song of the South. And my memories of seeing it, I had such fond memories of seeing it. I think because it was just such a surprise, the whole experience of going to the movies and sitting in the theater. So when this pattern came out, I think I bought it right away, and it's really fun. It was a fun stitch. And one more, plus a piece of art we're going to look at. I have a small, this I pulled out to wrap it, and I feel like I showed it once before. It's a Sue Hillis, probably named Sweet Land of Liberty or something. It is one of the sweetest pieces ever. If you like patriotic, you like the children, and you like the red and the blues, this one is just seriously, I don't think I've ever seen anybody stitch it. Well, I say that there was somebody when Flosstube was really new. There was a young lady who showed it that she was stitching it, and I don't know, she had changed something, and it just really didn't. I'm very pleased with mine. I don't remember what she changed. There was something about it she didn't like. So I don't remember. So that's the only person I've ever seen stitch it. Never saw any, I don't think I ever saw another video, so I don't really know that it ever got finished, but I honestly have never seen anybody stitch this. Probably there's a few here I've never seen anybody stitch. Did I say the year? 2015. That is not that long ago. 2015. Oh, the mailman's coming. I've been watching for the mailman. Let's see if he comes up the driveway. That always makes me the happiest. Yep, he's coming up the driveway. I do Stitch Fix. You have to hear people talk about Stitch Fix. My daughter got me started on it a little over a year ago, and it's clothing. What do they call it? Like I think I signed up for one every 2 months, a box to come, and you pay, there's a $20 styling fee, it's called, and if you don't take anything out of the package when it comes, if you don't keep anything, you have to pay that $20. But if you any item you keep out of the 5, it starts right off with $20 off. The $20 styling fee is applied. And then I was offered, apparently this has to be offered to you from Stitch Fix. I can't even imagine why, because I don't buy a lot. I don't get one every month. I don't request extra ones or anything like that. A while back, they offered me the option to pay a one-time $50 styling fee, good for a year, and that worked the same way. You did the first order, if you kept anything, you didn't have to, that $50 applied to the price of the clothing. So I've been doing that for a while. When we went to Hawaii last year, I wrote in my description or note to my stylist that I needed things that were appropriate for a vacation to Hawaii, and I kept everything they sent. So I thought that was a great way to do it. If any of you watch Emily Eclectic Possessions, she has started doing Stitch Fix, and she does an unboxing where she opens her stuff right there on camera and talks about it and tries it on and shows you. I'm not really into doing that. But she and I have conversed a little bit because she was having a hard time getting her stylist to figure out what her style was. And I was telling her that I thought I had figured it out with the trip to Hawaii. It was a good hint to just tell them what it is you need. So when it was getting to be last summer, early summer, I wrote and said, we spend most of our summer weekends by a lake, on a boat, water play, so outside clothing. things you would put on, like a sundress or a cover up or whatever to go on a boat. I don't even know what they sent me, but I think it was an epic fail. I thought, well, all right, that's not going to work. So I got it. Apparently, I've never requested a new stylist, but last time I got a new stylist and it was a man. And I think I kept 4 out of the 5 things. So Stitch Fix, you tell them, you go through a whole series of questions and whatnot, and you tell them what your style is. Sorry, I have to look and see what fell over. You're propped up on a roll of bubble wrap. And behind it is more bubble wrap and newspaper and paper and stuff. So anyway, so the Stitch Fix. Okay. So, and you really be honest. You're telling somebody the clothing you want and how clothing fits you and what you like and whatever. So it has gotten better. My fixes quite often contain something I like. I really always like their pants. I always like the pants. The one time I sent them back, they were just a color beyond weird. And I know they were pants that were meant to be worn inside a boot, like a high knee boot, like what's in style now, which I really don't work. I don't work, so I don't really need to dress up like that and wear boots. And I didn't have a pair of boots, and they were so tight around my shins, like I could barely get my foot through the hole. And I have like little feet and little ankles, so there was really no reason for that. But otherwise, I almost always keep their pants. I like those. You can set up a Pinterest board where you pin clothing and things that you like, and then you can link it to Stitch Fix. If you do unboxings on YouTube, you can link that and they'll watch and see what it is you really say about what you like or don't like about like the length of a sleeve or the feel of the fabric or whatever. So, okay, that was a long way to get to the fact that I think the mailman brought my Stitch Fix box, but also Stitch Fix has started a new thing where on the app you can look and see other clothing that you can buy outright. You don't have to wait for it to come in a fix or whatever. There's something on me. So there's like dust. My world is full of dust. And it'll show you like a little clip, like a little postcard, and it'll show you have this item, so it might be the blouse, and it'll show you like 4 other things that would go with that blouse. So I actually scrolled through a bunch of those and picked out some things that I also think might be out there. So while I won't be Stitch Fix unboxing with you guys, I'll be doing it myself. And if you've been hearing the ad, there has to be an advertisement here somewhere, right? If you're interested in trying it, let me know. I will send you a link and you'll get $25 off or $25 credit, and I'll get a $25 credit. So I know Jen of Jen's Stitching Niche does it, and Emily Eclectic Possessions, and I think those are the only 2 Flosstubers I know. My daughter's been doing it. Her friend does it. Her friend lives in a place that's kind of far from any potential shopping and whatnot. I can go shopping, but this is really nice too. It kind of takes the pressure off. You'll think, oh, I have that new sweater and blouse. I'll wear that. So anyway. Okay, so back to this trip down memory lane. I just took this down today because I'm doing all the picture. I'm wrapping pictures. But this is a print by somebody named Betty, and I think it's Shambly. And she's a local artist. She used to, and I believe she's retired from the job. I shouldn't talk behind the picture, but there's a sticker on here talking about it. So I thought maybe it would say her name. Betty. She lives in an area very close to me. She did art. She did some of the art shows, local art shows, and so I have bought some of her things there. And I always thought they would make the nicest cross stitch. Doesn't that look like Sarah G? Right? Doesn't that look like it came from Sarah G? Sarah Grew. I don't know how to say her last name. She's, I think, a French designer. Look, she has some that are very similar. But anyway, I took that down and it's ready to be wrapped and moved. Like I said, I think I have 4 of her prints. I think they're still down. Some of them are still downstairs. So they'll be making their way up here. Okay, so let's do what you really came here to see. Although vintage is good too. I took with me, all right, let's back up a little bit. I had started these Crazy Annie's stitching ornaments of the month from that were a club you could be a part of last year. I was supposed to be doing them once a month so that I had a once a month thing. So I did this one, and I've shown you these. This one I did in December, and this one I did in January. I took them. This was the only thing I took with me when we traveled. And so I managed to stitch 2 of them. The inside takes about an evening. The outsides take me like 2 evenings. So I did 2. And then I needed to be at our new house for 2 whole days while some carpet work was getting done, some carpets replaced and carpets cleaned, and I did this. So next month, March, I will be doing more. So I didn't stick to my once a month, which I'm not complaining about because it's okay. It's my stitching, right? Laura Yu, who I think a lot of you know from Instagram, and she's been to StitchCon. She and I were doing them together. She may be farther ahead. Are you farther ahead, Lori? I don't know. And then one of my Stitch Manias, I'm trying to finish last year's Stitch Mania things, whether it was a new start or a whip, so that this year I have lots of open slots. I picked up 3 little kittens. Okay. In this house, there's 2 little kittens, and one of them, one day, grabbed my pattern and snatched this corner off it. So, that's in there. Back in the time of Stitch Mania-ish, I had stitched the kittens, and then I had branched out a little bit, just a tiny bit, into some of the things going on around the kittens. When I got serious about them, I finished it up. It took a lot more time in stitching than, of course, than you expect, because that's how it works. But it's done. I stitched it on, I think, a 36 count. So I think overall it came out smaller than maybe I would have wanted. Oh, no. 32 count, picture this plus earthen. So I don't know. I think what it was, I used 1 strand because this fabric was so like plump. I think I would have liked it bolder with 2 strands, but that wasn't going to work on this fabric. So that's done. My Christmas start. This was my Christmas start, right? The Christmas heralds. I call them the Herald family. You don't have to tell me. I know what that means. The word heralds down there is not the name Harold, but I can't stop calling them heralds. The heralds. So I'm just doing little bits as I go. This in February. Ooh, found the needle. In February, I did these 2 folks and the dog. And that leaves me with only Daddy Harold and a dog left to do. Cute, right? Huh. So that's coming along. Each of these, like that took about a week. The Crazy Annie's ornaments, they took about a week. The kittens, when did I say I finished this? This was actually what I finished in January, after the last video. I'm trying to finish I'm trying to get 1 Mania whip or new start finished each month. So that was January. I think I misspoke. And finally, this was my birthday start. I am doing Jack Frost Tree Farm, which is a Little House Needleworks pattern. I'm doing it all on 1. And if you'll recall, let me get it along. Well, that was the back. You don't want to see that. I did this first part, and that's the middle. For me, that's going to be the middle, and the varying single scenes will extend out. So I worked on what will be going off to the right. So I showed you this last month, the hot cocoa was last month. And then that would be January. February I did this, but it only took a few nights, so I kept on going and did the last one in the lineup. I changed some things in this last one. This is what, only 2 of the patterns have anything going on like this up above. So I don't want that on only 2 of them, so I left it off. I raised up the snow just a little bit in the trees so they're a bit taller. I added a couple trees over here and I put the word across the top, or the words Douglas fir. So it's more in keeping with the rest of it. So as I go down the other way, at the very end will be the other pattern that has a vehicle in it and words, and also has the ornamental trim over the top. I will do a similar array of trees. The trees will extend further and the word balsam fir will be up above it. So this is fun. I am very, very happy to be done with the stuff that heads off to the right, because that meant I was rolling up a whole lot of fabric to hold in my hand. Now that I kind of have some length, I didn't even try to calculate how long to make it. I can cut off some extra fabric and some extra fabric from this side too, maybe making it more manageable. So it's coming right along. I did not work on my red Santa. I will try not to neglect it forever because I don't like to do that. That was my New Year's start. I'm sorry. I should be better at this. I can look up on my X-Stitch app on my iPad that you all are watching me from and see exactly which was Christmas, birthday, and maybe it was my birthday start. I don't know. Might have been New Year's. Anyway, I bought that when I went to Country Sampler in Spring Green, Wisconsin with Barb and Leanne. And we bought them all the 3 of us bought them together. And so it is only natural that the piece reminds me of Leanne. And to me, currently, that's still a sad subject. I really, really respected Leanne's decision to keep her medical life separate from her Flosstube life. I really respect that. I feel like if you wouldn't turn around and tell the person something behind the person in line behind you at the grocery store, if you wouldn't turn around and start telling them something, then it doesn't belong on your Flosstube. That's not to say that I'm not just as voyeuristic as everybody else and don't sometimes like to know the nitty gritty. But I personally wouldn't, I personally wouldn't, don't think, let's just say that. I don't think I would put it on my Flosstube either. So I respect that. And I kept all of our Flosstube comment kind of conversations not health related. She would talk to you about it. I don't know, and generally people that she didn't know in person if she would talk about it, but when I saw her, we talked about it. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that her death was, to me, and I think most of us, such a shock because we didn't know what exactly was going on. Her last video, she looked healthy. She had energy in her voice. Her eyes were smiling, so to be that near death, just, I think, was just a shock. I mean, we had only just had conversations again through Flosstube comments or Instagram or whatever, she talked about how her washing machine quit working and her son was home from college, and that had happened to me. I had, kids home from college and the washing machine had crapped out, or the dryer. I think it was the dryer. I've had it happen to both. It's been both things. Anyway, those were the conversations we had just been having. So it was a sad, and I feel for Barb. I'm sorry. Because it's a lifelong friend, a friend that you were, had shared your life with and share your hobby with. And that's a sad, sad thing to lose somebody so young. So anyway, my Santa has not come back out yet. It will. I'm just not ready yet. So it will. And then a couple other things real quick. I won one of the Rovaris patterns from Nicole of Nicole's Needlework, Nicole's Needlework, right, Nicole? Sorry. I don't know. I think you've probably seen on Flosstube that Rovaris had been sending patterns to some Flosstubers and asking if they would do a giveaway just to help promote. It's a common, it's how a lot of designers are getting it out there now because they know the influence. So this was the one. I had not ever seen it. I have at least one Rovaris pattern. One I'm working on. It was part of the Whip or part of Mania. I'd never seen this one, and as you know, possibly, unless you just turned me on, I'm moving to a house on the lake. So these little stitches are just perfect. Just perfect. I might leave the words off. So, thank you, Nicole. She sent me that. And on a note that's not related to stitching or prior stitches or clothing, or what I'm wearing, I talk about what I'm reading, right? I've always been a reader, have always read, always. I was an early reader when I'm not that old, I know, that old. Not that old, I'm still, right? I learned to read out of a Dick and Jane reader in kindergarten, and I was one of two children who actually actually learned how to read by the end of kindergarten. So that's how it was back then. That if you could read, I don't know if kids came out of kindergarten reading or not, but there were only two of us who actually finished the Dick and Jane reader in the course of our kindergarten life. So anyway, always have been a reader. So I'm in a book club at the library, and very much enjoy it. I enjoy being forced to read things that I wouldn't normally read. I wouldn't pick things up off the shelf. I have read some fabulous books that way, books I just never would have come across. But anyway, I ran past the library yesterday on my way home from one house to the other, and I grabbed the book for the next book club, and it's called Bettyville. Bettyville, doesn't that cover make you want to read it? Let's get that reflection off it. Just the cover. And so I started it this morning when I was being lazy and not wanting to get out of bed, and I read the first 3 chapters in no time, and every time I walk by the book, I want to pick it up and sit down and read, but I know that would be death to progress in today's, anything I'm doing today. So Betty is in her late 80s, mid 80s, and she is heading in the direction of some form of dementia. And her son, who was an only child, is back home from New York City, where his career kind of tanked, and he's there to be with his mother. And lots of trips down memory lane. Lives in the family home is in Missouri, in a farming community, a small town that's been, as he said, I think most of us can relate to small town life is not what it was, and point to Walmart as playing a big role in the ending of the small businesses. but he also attributes it to the breakups of the family farm, and I live in a rural community, so I understand that our saving grace in the farms is the Mennonites, um, and to meth. So that was an interesting. It gives you something to think about. He doesn't go into it or anything, but that was a sentence that just really stuck in my brain. But this is a very, at this point, fun read. He's reminiscing about his mother and her unusual quirks and small town living. And I sometimes when I'm going to read a book, especially one that's been given to me to read, like a book club, I don't read the flap. So as I started it, I couldn't decide, is the child that's home a daughter or a son? And then it started to come back to me to when we read about it in a prior book club meeting, that he's a gay man. But I don't really know his story yet, or how much of his story we're going to learn, because he may not be the point of the story. I think this book won't take me all that long, because when I like a book enough to want to pick it up and just read one chapter, and then just read one chapter a little bit later in the day, it won't take long to get through it. So that's a good book. If it seems interesting to you, I would recommend it. So anyway, Monday afternoon, like we keep saying, I like to make sure we all understand the date. I don't know the video number. Whatever, you're here, you're watching. I'm not even going to be attempting to upload this till tomorrow. I have a series of dentist appointments, and one of them is tomorrow. So probably when that is over, I'm going to go grocery shopping at the grocery stores where I can take my iPad and use their internet. So my new house will have good internet. Who would have ever excited? I laugh when people complain about Spectrum. I'm like, you guys have no clue. None whatsoever. So I was on the phone to Spectrum this morning, and we'll be getting that hooked up over there. So if I don't get it uploaded tomorrow at the grocery store, then soon, from my very own high-speed internet. Yay me. That's about it. We're sort of obsessed about the one and only thing. We're supposed to be booking flights for a trip in May for my husband's company. It's the same vendor that awards trips. So we went to Hawaii, and we've been a few other places. They like to send people to very unusual places. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. But we were going to go a whole week. We were going to extend the trip and do some things in the general area or thereabouts of where we're going. And then we're just tired. We're so tired. Like, nah, let's just go on Wednesday and come home on Sunday. But every single time we say, we need to sit down and book those flights, we don't do it. So I'm pretty sure that's not a sign of us not wanting to go. It's just a sign of us being so focused on this one thing that everything else kind of mentally gets pushed aside. So we will get our act together again, but we do have some travel plans coming up once we book them. So if any of you have watched me for a long time, you know my quest to visit all 50 states. I will at least get to go to one more, and maybe, because we're not that far from the border of another one, get to travel on into another one. So yay me. I was trying to count. I was trying to sleep the other night. I was trying to count all the states I'd been to, but then I kept losing count. So it's not that hard to count to 50, and it's not even as high as 50. So I don't know. It's, whatever. It's like you're counting on your fingers, and then you get to your fingers again, and you're like, am I at 15 or 10 or 20 or whatever, 30 something. It's 30 something. I've to the point where the states that I haven't been to are the big ones. So when you go there, it's like hard to get to another state. It's not like going up into New England where you can just drive from state to state in no time. So anyway. that's what's going on in the house of stitching between the lines. I was working on something. I think I started working on one of my other older Mania whip things, but I didn't bring it upstairs. I'll have it to show when this other thing arrives in the mail that I want to be sure to talk about. So have a good week, and we'll see you all soon.